Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel where stories and other random things take center stage. Happy Monday and welcome to today's video. I hope you're having a lovely morning. I'm probably not awake in real time because you see this at 5 a.m. and I have school at 8:15 and I'm probably not up at all. So I'll probably get up around 5:45, 6 o'clock. Who knows? Anyway, I'm reviewing Ash Princess for today's video, and yeah, let's begin. Here we go. Theodosia was 6 when her country was invaded and her mother, the Fire Queen, was murdered before her eyes. On that day, the Kaiser took Theodosia's family, her land, and her name. Theo, was crowned Ash Princess, a title of shame to bear in her new life as a prisoner. For 10 years, Theo has been a captive in her own palace. She's endured the relentless abuse and ridicule of the Kaiser and his court. She is powerless, surviving in her new world only by burying the girl she was deep inside. Then, one night, the Kaiser forces her to do the unthinkable. With blood on her hands and all hope of reclaiming her throne lost, she realizes that surviving is no longer enough, but she does have a weapon. Her mind is sharper than any sword, and power isn't always won on the battlefield. For 10 years, the Ash Princess has seen her land pillaged and her people enslaved. That all ends here. Um, so this is like the third time I read this book. I believe this is the third time I read it. I remember the first time I read it, I didn't fully enjoy this book, but by the second time, I still wanted to read the second book, I remember. But by the second time I read it, I was actually more inclined to enjoy it. And I understand why I probably got, I didn't enjoy it at the time. I read it, I think when I read it, I was, what was I? I'm pretty sure I was around 18 when I read this book the first time. And I mainly read, this book still goes on YA fantasy, but I did read a lot of YA fantasy where women, had swords and stuff like that, and they were thinking about they mainly had swords. And I don't think I liked it because I felt like Theodosia as a character was weak. But I read it now, and I read it the second time, and I realized, no, I'm wrong. She is a very strong character, and it got more interesting. And I'm reading it the third time, and I'm like, yeah, no. I gave it a 4-star rating the second time I read it, but now I'm reading it now, I'm like, no, a 5-star rating is quite good. Actually, I think it definitely deserved that 5-star rating. And I realize now as I read it a third time, that I was wrong the first time and that I was a little bit more right the second time, but also my rating was also wrong for the second time. And in my opinion. But then again, opinions do change, so it kind of works. But the third time reading this, I felt that I got a better understanding of the book, and I feel that now as I review it, I see everything that I didn't see the first time when I read it. I think the first time I was looking for a different character in Theo, and she just wasn't that character. But I also read it now, and I'm like, this is a great character with a great, that has a really interesting set of ways to solve her issues, and it's not necessarily by fighting. I read it now, and it's kind of, I'm really happy with this book, and I really do enjoy it, and I can see myself rereading it a few more times and maybe get something else out of it. I loved this book. I found Theodosia to be a fully realized character. as is everyone else. I will say that the villainess that comes out of the second of the end of this book also felt like it was. I was kind of surprised she would be it, but well, actually, I was not surprised that she would be it, but because I remember predicting that she would be the villain in the second book, um, along with the Kaiser, but that's more complicated. I felt that the way that the villainess ended up like being developed in this book was kind of interesting. You don't always see the villain be developed in the books. Like you don't usually see the actions that make them develop that way. But in this book, I did see that. And I think that was the best part, that I got to see the villains or the villainess develop. And I think that was what was fun. That I got to see exactly how she got developed and how she technically was a villainess even from the very beginning, because she had a specific belief, and when they got challenged it became, difficult for her, I guess you can say. So it was interesting. um it was interesting to see these the way that she was going to definitely become a villain, and I look forward to seeing again what happens kind of like at the end, because the end is usually quite fun. The end is usually quite interesting and satisfying. I will definitely discuss it as I review, the other books, but it is something I enjoyed, and something I found interesting to reread, and I liked the way that the author set all of this up. It kind of makes sense that the way that she would realize that she has to conquer her throne is to is because of what the Kaiser forced her to do. It makes sense to me, at least, because she was the person that, okay, I'm gonna just spoil it a little bit because it happens in the very beginning. The person that she was forced to kill was her father, and he is the one person she actually knew as a little girl. It makes sense that everybody else, like, she may have cared about her people, but because of the things that were happening, she could have resented them. But it makes sense that he would be the one that kind of would push her to think, okay, this is enough. I'm not going to wait anymore. I'm not going to stay here and go by the rule. If I don't make the Kaiser mad, I'm going to live. Right? It makes sense. I feel like that makes a lot of sense for me. And I also feel like, especially because in the beginning she explains that she had hope that he was supposed to be rescuing her. She had hope that he would at some point rescue her, and that didn't happen. And I think as a child, going through that and having your hope basically be taken away, and then you have to just like kill your own hope, is it makes sense that she would do this, and it's also very, very sad and very traumatizing. So to me, it makes sense. It makes sense to me. Not to mention, I like the fact that she kind of got herself out of there, but also with support from her friends, even though they had some, like, they had some things that they didn't believe. They didn't believe she would do it, and technically I felt like she made her own choices, and that was the best part. I think it was interesting to see how she used her mind to outsmart other people, and how she was a very strategic person. I don't see that a lot in my reading, and I think that's like that was the one thing that drew me in the second time and third time I read this book. So I think when I read the first time, I got annoyed because I didn't feel she was a strong character, but now I know that she is a very strong character, and she is very well realized, and is also an adaptable character that just adapted to her situation as best as she could. I think it's understandable, and I think that this book was very honest in what it was attempting to do. So, yes, definitely a very enjoyable read. I will continue to reread the rest of the series, Lady Smoke and Ember Queen. I will be reviewing that too. At the time I'm recording this, the there is supposed to be a book that's supposed to be coming out on for another trilogy by the same author, which I will be reading. I don't know if the review for that first book will be out before this one. It actually might be out before this one. It might be one of those impromptu videos I make. But for now, I will say that it's definitely interesting to read this book now and in my 20s, and it's enjoyable. It's very enjoyable, and I think it's amazing. So I did enjoy it a lot. 5 stars from me. The world building was actually really good. I also really enjoyed the magic system. I felt like the fact that the magic system was tied to their religion was actually really interesting. First time I've seen something like that. So I enjoyed the magic system, as well as the characters in general. Even the side characters were really awesome. The friends group was really cool. Artemisia being one of my favorites. I felt like Artemisia was an interesting character. I really liked her. I do want to warn you that if you do read this book, uh, there are mentions of sexual assault, and there is also there is very graphic imagery of the punishments and the abuse that was basically there's some imagery of abuse in the book, and stuff like that. So I would uh, definitely check in content warnings for this. Uh, I It's not as like the sexual assault is basically mentioned, and the abuse, there's only like at least 1 to 2 scenes of her of Theo getting punished slash basically whipped, really. So I do want to warn you, in case these are things you don't want to see or read about. So yeah. Anyway, 5 stars from me. I'll be back on Wednesday. And my next few videos are going to, I believe, if I read that correctly in my thing, are going to be a couple of story time videos. So enjoy that, and until my next video, consume stories. Bye.